There is a house close to the gates of the park on Dublin's North Circular Road. The house stands in the centre of a block near the corner where the road drops down a hill. The Georgian dwelling has 6 wide steps that lead to the front door. Beside the door is a window. Above them are 2 more. And beneath them is another one, a window that is. The one that looks at the pedestrians as they walk past. All in all, there was 6 steps, 1 door and 4 windows. The one at the bottom is the basement and that's where Peepy lives. Peepy, the 25-year-old redhead, has a splatter of freckles that spread across the bridge of her nose. She's green eyes, olive skin and a beautiful face. Peepy stands 5 feet 6 inches tall, with a strong build and a who dares to win attitude. She has a red rose tattoo on the back of her neck. Peepy wears jeans, not skirts, unless the occasion calls for it. She works as a house painter, trained as a cage fighter, loves art, fashion, music and spicy food. Now, not far from her house is a shop that rested near the gates of the park, and outside that shop sat a young girl. She sat there in the morning, in the evening and sometimes late into the night. One day Peepy stopped, looked at the girl and asked her name. "I have 3 different names. Molly, or Gumball Molly, or Molly Gumball." "Well, that's 4 names. Which one do you like?" "Molly, I like to be called Molly Gumball." "Molly Gumball it is then. Can I get you something in the shop?" Oh, Peepy had been watching her for quite some time. She was of a tender age, only 14, Peepy suspected. Her hair was blonde, short, with 2 braids on either side. She wore a yellow dress and faded jeans. Her haircut was boyish but her face was pretty, and she did not look or sound homeless. How do you sound homeless? Answer, the very opposite of what she did. The thought flashed across Peepy's mind. It was a thought that had popped in and out of her head over the last few days. Someone else might have noticed her. Her youthful looks, her eyes full of innocence and the sweetness of her lips. When Peepy came out of the shop, she handed her the drink and the chocolate and crisps. "Would you like to go for a walk, Molly Gumball?" "Yes, please. That would be so exciting." Looking up while opening the crisp, she said, pleasant, not exciting." Peepy nodded and smiled. As they walked into the park, Peepy tried to bring up the subject of homelessness. Molly spared her the ordeal. "I'm not homeless, I have a home. My mother died. Ma'am was a wonderful pet. She was full of life, adventure, and happiness. Dad is anything but. Oh, Ma'am was my world. Dad married again. Yes, he married a horrid woman, much like himself. And I never got on. My sister says it is because we are so alike. She tells lies. She dislikes Dad as much as I do. So her little lamb's way is to agree with everyone. Sorry, would you like a crisp?" she said, turning the pack toward Peepy. "No thanks. What is your name?" Molly cut across. "Well, like you, I have 3 different names. Penny, Penelope, or Peepy. Everyone calls me Peepy. I like it. Where do you sleep, Molly?" "Sleep? I sleep in a secret place high above the world, out of sight of tigers and wild animals." She turned and walked backwards with the crisp in hand and the Coke in one pocket of her jacket and the bar in the other. She smiled. "Oh, I'm not afraid. The night is wonderful, the moon watches me, the stars come out to see me in my splendid world under the open sky. What about your dad? Where does he think you are? Surely he must be worried." "Nope. How can you be sure? My first night out of the house, alone. I was convinced he'd come looking for me. He never did. My dad ordered the curry, drank wine and went to bed. He never once mentioned me. I rang my sister and she told me all of the above." "How old are you?" "I'm 16 years of age." She looks younger, Peepy thought. "I'm very glad we met. And I'm sure you feel the same way, Peepy." "I do. Now let's sit over here." They found a bench and sat and talked. All the time, Peepy was trying to figure out her next move. If and only if she invited this homeless runaway into her house. This young girl was entering into her world. At only 24, Peepy felt too young to be mothering anyone, let alone a 16-year-old with a tall story, a real story or anything but a story. "Okay, so tell me about your family again, Molly Gumball." Chapter 2. My sister and I looked like each other. Well, everyone says you and your sister look like one another. To which I'd reply, in my head, yes, we are sisters. We are supposed to look like one another. There was a shop where we lived, and in it was an old man. He was a nice old man who gave us sweets. We didn't need him to give us sweets because we had money. Ma'am always gave us money. One day my sister Rachel, did I tell you my sister's name was Rachel? Anyway, we found the man lying behind the counter as drunk as a skunk. That's what our ma'am said. She paused. And Peepy could see her chase a memory. Then Molly blurted, Mr. Rogers is as drunk as a skunk. Yes, that's what ma'am would say, only she'd say it better. Mr. Rogers is as drunk as a skunk. It was at that moment that her gaze escaped her, but it wasn't long before she captured it and said, Mr. Rogers liked to talk and talked a lot, but whatever he had to say he needed to say it fast, because his wife, Mrs. Rogers, liked to talk too. And she'd out-talk him any day. Ma'am said that Mrs. Rogers would talk the hind legs of a donkey. I never understood how anyone could talk the hind legs of a donkey. Outside his shop were flowers. He hid them in big boxes. They were timber boxes. He was always fixing them and watering them. In the summer, he'd take tiny drops of water and flick them at us to make us laugh. Mr. Rogers loved to see us laugh. I think he liked to see everyone laugh. It was his favorite thing. Now, above the shop lived a man who had a dog. The dog had a happy face. The dog was tall and the man was small. Everyone called the man Peanut. I don't know why they called him that, but he never seemed to mind. Some people, like Ma'am, said he was Mr. Rogers' long-lost brother. I never found out how he got lost and how long it was till they found him. My sister had green eyes, Hazel, Ma'am said, like yours. I have brown, and Ma'am has blue. She corrected herself, had blue. She had blue and my dad had grey, yes, grey eyes. We had our own rooms, you know. I had one, my sister had another, and our parents had separate rooms also. They did not get on. Turning, you're ever so quiet, Peepy, what's your full name? She opened the can of Coke. I'll let you in on a secret. My name is Penelope Peabottom, but everyone knows me as Peepy, like I said. Peepy reached her hand out. Molly took hold of it and Peepy said, pleased to make your acquaintance, Molly Gumball. Likewise, the young girl replied. For the smallest of seconds, Peepy thought of her mother. In her mind's eye, she could see her. She'd be walking about the kitchen with a rolling pin in her hand, while Peepy sat sipping soup. Yes, soup, chicken soup, on a table made from timber matching the press, the units, and the door. Her father finished the back wall with white tiles. The wallpaper is floral, like the curtains, only the pattern is larger, much larger. So you did what? You taken a runaway fugitive from no man's land. I can't believe it. Of all the things to do, and at your age. And from no man's land and in your state. State? Wah state? Let's not go there. You're right about that, she thought, turning away from the ramblings in her head. Another thought ran across her mind. It ran so fast she barely caught it. Whatever I do, my mother will be the last to know. Peepy had yet to decide on what to do next. She only had two options, walk away or bring her close. Invite her to stay or say goodbye. She noticed Molly throwing her a few glances. Molly lied about sleeping out. The whole experience frightened her. She dreaded the evenings as the night closed in. But it was a sunny morning. The trees were in bloom, the birds were in full flight, and the world did not seem so frightening. She loved the mornings. There was much to be thankful for and plenty to think about. She could always go home, but she knew she probably never would. Molly had made the move. She'd crossed that line. The line of no return, however. Sleeping rough was not a long-term plan. That was definitely out of the question. But what do I do next? She pondered, glancing once again at Peepy. It was in a shared glance that something happened. They became friends, and for some reason, Peepy was assured that her next move was the right move. Standing up, she said, "Right, Molly, we need to get back. It looks like it might rain." And off she went with Molly trailing behind. "Can we get a dog?" "I never had a dog." Ma'am was a little afraid. "So I promised myself that one day I would get one." Peepy smiled as she walked ahead. She smiled and said, "Once it's not a Rottweiler, what would you call him?" "Well, If it was a boy and he was brown, I'd call him Biscuit. And if it was a girl? Mams, I'd call her Mams after Mam. The basement contained a seating area and kitchen, a toilet and shower, and a bedroom, with a back window. It was a well-cared-for place with a lot of art hanging on the walls. Peepy painted the walls green while she finished the timber floors in a light grey. She had bought a sofa bed when she first took up residence over a year ago. Therefore, Molly had nothing to worry about with her sleeping arrangements. The next morning, Molly awoke on her first day in her new bed. She pulled the curtains and gazed at the streets, feeling the benefits of having a good sleep. It did not take her long to warm to the room, the bed and the streets outside her window. People walked on either side of the street. They were going to the zoo or to the park. Or both. It was a beautiful day. Kids gathered outside the shop. Peepy had gone to work. Molly made herself breakfast, a bowl of cereal, toast and jam and a cup of coffee. Peepy rang. "Are you in, or out, Molly?" "In. Do you want me to make you dinner? I'm a splendid cook." "How about?" "Hold on, listen, did you hear the news?" "The news? What news?" "Okay, they found a man in the park yesterday running with a knife. He'd slashed a sleeping bag he'd found about 10 times. He thought someone was in it." Alarm bells went off in Peepy's head. Then she thought, it isn't what Molly told me about her story. It's what she left out. Was that a random attack or was it personal? And if so, is there someone watching me? That's terrible news. Thank God I never slept in the park. Do you want me to make dinner? Silence. "Well," Peepy replied, followed by another long silence. No, tell you what, I'll grab a curry on the way home." "Great beef curry and chips," Molly said, speaking into a phone that had gone dead. Molly fell on her knees and thanked God that she had a place to stay.